Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Seen and Heard. I'm Madeline Rosene, and today I'm here with Katie and Gillian from No Creeps, two really inspiring women. Can you guys introduce yourselves?
Hello, thanks for having us here today. I'm Gillian Jean.
And I'm Katie Tucker.
Awesome. Can you guys give us both your backgrounds, like in the music industry, and then also tell us a little bit about No Creeps and what you do?
Absolutely. I guess I'll get us started. So, yeah, I've been in the music industry from the get-go. Originally from New York City. I've been in Los Angeles for about 8 years and started out first at Central Park Summer Stage, helping them out with some stuff in the, office there, and also on site at the events as an usher and things like that, and then worked at this jazz label, Motema Music, for a few years, and then kind of gradually started doing freelance things, music blogging, and then started my own business which is Gillian Jean Creative, and I do a lot of digital marketing strategy, and I work with independent artists, labels, management companies, and then also help produce a lot of events as well. And got connected to Katie, the amazing Katie Tucker over here at the beginning of 2024, and we started working together. Well, I joined the team of No Creeps to start getting involved with that mission, which we'll talk about more later.
Very cool.
Yeah, so just to give you, the brief spiel on me. So my name is Katie Tucker. I am a songwriter. I am also a vocal producer. I'm the founder and studio owner of Sharp Edges Records, which is a small boutique recording studio in North Hollywood. And I'm also one of the founding members and the head of communications and strategy at No Creeps. So I grew up in Michigan, went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, lived in New York City since, starting in 2012. I was pursuing songwriting pretty actively at that time. I then decided that I wanted to move to LA because I just loved the people here and it was very collaborative.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I decided to move to LA, and then as soon as I moved to LA, I actually had a song end up going double platinum. So
oh my god, what is the name of the song?
It's called "Do It for Love" by Namia Muro.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so I was super excited to hit that milestone, and that led me to being able to invest in some of my own recording equipment, and that's when I started Sharp Edges Records and then opened it in 2023. So that kind of started that for me. And then, it was originally going to be an expansion of, just a space for me to work on with my artists. But then just, over time and like about a few months in, I started having people coming in and asking to use the space for their own projects because they were unfortunately having bad experiences in other places.
Wow.
So that was really when I was inspired to start shifting the business model to being a space that anyone could come in and rent and create. So that became really important to me. And I also really started to prioritize safety at its core. So I have, 24/7 security cameras. I have contracts for everyone that walks in the door. I have session end times at 2 a.m. because I always say I don't think anything good happens after 2 a.m.
Yeah,
in a studio session like that, So that was what inspired that, and then led us to starting No Creeps, which is boldly advocating for more safety in the music industry.
Very cool, you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. So you both have tons of experience in the music industry. So I guess, you said you heard people's stories, and that's a lot of what inspired you to create this. Were there any accounts that you guys heard personally or experienced even personally where you feel like, women were really taken advantage of and you were like, okay, this needs to end now. Like I this is what's making me want to do this.
Yeah. So I have, I sadly have my fair share of stories just being a songwriter and going into sessions with a lot of different people. I mean, the culture now in music, and while it's amazing that there's an independent movement and there's more access for people to find success, whether that's through social media or their own home studios, things like that, it does make it so that there are now sessions and music work happening everywhere. And I think with that change, that can lead to unsafe environments.
Definitely.
You know, especially as a songwriter, you know, I would be connected with a producer and I had never met them before. I didn't know them. I was
They
going
just
into
slipped into your DMs, maybe?
Yeah. And I was going into their homes. And I think also being in your early 20s, I mean, at that time for me, I just felt invincible. And I was just so excited to find any kind of success and work with anybody. I felt like, you know, everyone had good intentions for me and I just wanted to create music. And through that, I ended up in some unsafe situations because I didn't know the person. I didn't vet them appropriately, you know, and you just, you know, not that it was my fault, but that, you know, they're just things like that that you're not thinking about. So I unfortunately have some of my own stories there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times as a songwriter and somebody who does want to just go and create, it's hard to tell what somebody's intentions are. You know, are they really altruistic and they just want me to come and, you know, use their recording studio for free and produce my track because they genuinely love my music? Like, oh my gosh, this is great! Like, what a happy thing! And then it can be so disappointing to find out that their motives are, in fact, not that at all. It's disappointing on so many levels.
Absolutely. And there are different forms of abuse, right? Yeah. I mean, obviously sexual abuse, a lot of sexual harassment happens in studios, and a lot of times that happens because the producer they're working with or the label executive or whoever they're meeting with, they have a certain power dynamic over this person and they use that for, you know, getting what they want out of you. And that's really unfortunate. But, you know, there are also just levels of abuse when it comes to, you know, if you're somebody that knows better and is trying to scam somebody, if you're, you know, just being inappropriate overall because you know that you have a certain power over that person, whether that comes from your influence, your identity, anything like that, you know, so power can come in many different forms.
That's so true. And I think, you know, one thing that's brought this to the surface has been, you know, the Me Too movement, but I feel like there was such a big focus on, you know, TV and film with that. And I'm so glad you guys are doing what you're doing because I feel like the music industry hasn't been quite as outspoken, right? So I just really applaud you guys. But Gillian, what about you?
Absolutely. Definitely also know a lot of stories and have experienced things myself, especially just out of college and just starting to get into the industry and going out to all kinds of events and, you know, shows for artists that I worked with in some way or another, going to things like CMJ and stuff like that. And you're just out at night in bars and venues and talking to people. And maybe I was trying to grow my career and my professional network and stuff like that. And oftentimes there were situations where the other person didn't come from it from a professional side, and then that could create some awkward situations, uncomfortable situations. So yeah, I think it's, you know, a fine line to navigate, especially in the music industry where a lot of times things are happening after traditional business hours and sometimes at bars and where people are drinking, and sometimes those kind of more, you know, sometimes decisions are made at night that wouldn't necessarily happen in the day in a sober environment. It's
such a different environment from like going into an office every day, and you know, you have those HR people and you have those boundaries that are created from a professional environment. In the music industry, it's like, yes, you are at bars, yes, you are in recording studios, you're in all these like fun places, but this is where the business decisions often happen. And that makes not boundaries confusing, because they shouldn't be confusing, right? But it makes it easier for predators, I think, in a sense. Did you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it can put people in situations where they can kind of test those boundaries and see what they can get away with. And again, maybe use drugs and alcohol as a shield and say, oh, you know, if something isn't received well, be like, oh, I had too much to drink or something like that, when maybe that wasn't the actual full truth of the situation. So yeah, I think so. And I've also worked with my fair share of women all over the years and have gotten so much feedback from women who maybe have had experiences mostly working with a team of men, how they really just appreciated what I brought to the table as a woman and how they felt maybe a little bit more heard and less pressured into a certain strategy that maybe they didn't feel was totally in alignment with them and how they wanted to express themselves. So that for me has also just been really important to create that environment for, anyone that I work with.
Yeah. It's amazing how women's voices can often just get overpowered by being in a male-dominated industry like that. I mean, as a kid in 7th grade, my first band, it was all boys and me, and we only did the songs they wanted to do. We only played the venues they wanted to do. It's just so easily lost. So
Yeah, actually, just on that note too, I felt, because I was in a lot of rooms with mostly men, I felt that for a long time my leadership skills were dismissed. Mm-hmm. And that was one of, the difficult things for me to navigate, because I always felt like I was someone that was confident and, had strong opinions and, just wanted to lead. And I felt a lot of times that was dismissed because it was, you're being difficult, or you're asking for too much, or you're being too vocal, or, things like that. And I think that was some of the more difficult things that I navigated when I was a young woman in male-dominated spaces.
Yeah. So can you tell me more about what No Creeps does, to create this kind of prevention and awareness?
Well, our little boilerplate is that No Creeps is a coalition boldly advocating for more safety, inclusivity, and well-being in the music industry. So we're really tackling issues of mental health, feeling more secure, feeling protected, how we can protect artists in all ways, from feeling safe in a studio to knowing how to navigate contracts and things like that, but also how people can advocate for one another to create safe spaces, to create a safe environment in a studio, to protect someone else if they are in a room and observing something that doesn't feel right, and just kind of navigating all of that and bringing people in who are in the industry, companies and organizations to join us, to have conversations, to see how we can work together and improve and grow together and change the industry for the better, and also just building community and getting people on the local level together to have these conversations, to find like-minded people who value this and are passionate about this, and seeing how we can also create tangible tools that people can use and kind of create a hub where people can find resources that already exist, that are available, that people can utilize if they're not aware, because the industry can be very fragmented and sometimes you don't know where to look, or maybe what institution is the right one for you to go to. So we are kind of, collecting things and kind of putting our stamp of approval, like, yes, these resources are helpful, this place is trustworthy, things like that.
Very cool.
But we're working on some things in particular that I'll pass off to Katie so she can touch on some of it as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, Gillian hit the mark on pretty much all of it, for sure. And, when we started No Creeps, we didn't really know what it was going to become. And we weren't really experts in the field either. We had our own sets of experiences. We just saw that there was a problem and decided we wanted to look for solutions. Yeah. I mean, that's just number one.
You don't need to be an expert to know that this is a problem.
Yeah. And, just luckily over the last, year and a half that we started, I mean, we have learned so much just from outreach with, some of the organizations we've been working with, some of the music executives, some of the people that have been diving into this work. I mean, we've just learned so much. And so, our very first event last year in October was really incredible. We had a bunch of organizations come together and say, hey, we all want this. We want more safety. And so we actually had a digital zine at our event that had a bunch of different resources for safety gathered from these different organizations, because like Gillian said, the industry, it can be a little bit fragmented. Like, while there are these incredible organizations, they might be only for certain types of people or members, or, you kind of have to search to find them.
Right.
And we really want it to become a hub for the industry so that people know where to go.
Like, one thing I can think of is Backline. I think we talked about Backline when I met you. They're like a mental health advocate and resource for independent musicians, right? So I mean, that would be one thing I could think of, you like one entity you guys would collaborate with for sure, right?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned
Yeah.
that because Backline was our beneficiary
Wow.
in 2024. So yeah, they Hillary Gleason, she came on stage and talked about Backline and their resources and some of the services that they do provide. And so for people that are not familiar, Backline is a 501c that offers mental health services to music industry professionals and their families. So they do some really incredible work. We decided to bring these organizations together. We also wanted to highlight speakers and talent that also really care. So our first event, we had Bonnie McKee perform.
Incredible.
And she was amazing. And she also joined our safety panel. So she talked about, some of her own experience navigating unsafe situations in studio sessions. And one of the things she said is, hey, if I don't know the person, I'm not going to start late.
Right.
For example, that's just
Yes.
one boundary that she sets. She also does not have alcohol in sessions. She just has these set boundaries from her experience of, this is the best way for me to go about this professionally. And so she really offered some incredible, tangible advice for upcoming creatives. And we also had Ari Herstand on the panel. He has Ari's Take, and he does the New Music Business podcast. He offers so many incredible resources, like educational resources for music professionals, young music professionals, of how to navigate royalties and how to make money and how to monetize this, and also just to look out for certain scams and just how the industry works. So he offered some really great advice. We also had Adriana Arce as our keynote speaker. She managed Miley Cyrus for 7 years, and she manages Lil Nas X now. She started Arce Entertainment. Not a dry eye in the room with her keynote, because it was, she spoke so vulnerably and so beautifully, yet she's an absolute industry badass.
Wow.
So one of the things I would say we're so proud to have created in that first event is a vulnerable space for really industry players to come in and speak vulnerably and authentically.
That's incredible.
A lot of our attendees came back to us and said, hey, we've never been in a space like that before. So we started off as this event, but we decided we wanted to go even deeper than that. So there's something we're working on right now. It's a session safety checklist, basically just some educational tools that people can bring into sessions to be able to spot hey, what does a safe space look like? How can I create a safe space? And if these people don't necessarily have these safety measures in place, could it be a red flag? So because I think about, what if some of these resources were available to me when I first came into the industry?
Exactly.
How many situations, unsafe situations, could I have avoided and protected myself from if there were just some of these educational tools out there, industry-wide educational tools, right? So that's something that we're working on right now, because we feel it's really important to also create some of our own resources that can stand the test of time and be available for anyone in the industry, no matter what level they're at.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think it's what stands out to me is that you really have these leaders who are able to be vulnerable and share these stories that you don't have the chance to hear leaders like that be vulnerable. I think that's very innovative, and wow, yeah, I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you.
So you have events coming up.
We do. We've been doing some offshoot events in addition to our bigger benefit event. So we recently had a dinner at House of Bossy, which is here in LA, and they're an amazing organization that hosts, artists in residence. They do salons, they do dinners, and we really wanted to partner with them on something. And Bossy is an artist, singer, performer, and she's incredibly talented. So we invited some of our partners and a lot of people we had started building relationships with, starting with last year's event, and invited them to this dinner where we could have a real conversation and discussion around safety. And that's what, a lot of that feedback is going into this studio safety checklist that we're getting ready to release. And we had such an incredible conversation around that. We created some prompts for people and then just asked them, about what they would like to see implemented and changed in the industry, and had an incredible conversation. We had to kind of cut it off because we had run way over time, and it was amazing. We just loved how passionate and overflowing with ideas people had. So I think everyone sees a real vision for this and where it can go and what it can become if we just have the right people involved. So we're really excited about where we're taking it and where it can go from here. And then we've had some coffee connects as well. And those have been in the morning at Toastique in Hollywood.
Great. Love
which
Toastique.
Is where we met.
Yep.
Co-hosted with Jasmine Valencia, JV Agency.
Shout out.
And that's been wonderful, getting people together. And people have really enjoyed that too, just as a counter offer to so many events that happen at night. They're like, oh, it's so refreshing to have something in the morning. I mean, we love our nighttime events too, but just to do something a little bit different, people have found it to be a nice way to start their day. So those have just been casual gatherings where we also have some table card prompts for people if they want to have, more thoughtful conversations around our initiatives, and then have a mindful moment to kind of ground people in the morning, and also think about what safety really looks like and feels like to them in their body, and how that can be translated into the industry and the spaces that we exist in within the industry.
Yeah, we led people through a mindful moment during the Coffee Connect, and asked people, what is it, imagine a safe space, what does it look like, what does it feel like, who are the people around you, and then kind of navigating people into, okay, what would a safe music industry feel like for you? What would it look like for you? How are the people feeling around you? And also, how are you making the people feel around you? And so it's inviting not only people to take a moment to think about exactly what Gillian said, how does it feel in the body? What does it look like? But also what it can look like for others and what you could do for others to create the same thing. Oh, wow. So a big part of, obviously we're working on these specific safety tools, but we also want to impact real culture change.
Got it.
And so, we're never going to be able to be in every single room, in every single situation. But can we start a dialogue around what does it mean to protect each other? How can we listen to each other more, understand each other's different experiences, and know how to show up for each other? So we talk about how power comes in different forms, and, the when you see something, say something dynamic, because I think that a lot of times these things happen because other people stay silent.
Yep.
And look, it's not always safe to say something, right?
Sure.
There are layers to that, but we talk about, hey, in certain rooms, if you're somebody, let's say for me, for example, I've been in this industry over a decade. I'm not as worried about if I say something, I'm going to be blacklisted, or I'm going to be, someone's going to use their power against me. I'm fortunate enough to be in a place where I don't have to worry about that as much. So if I see someone younger having some kind of uncomfortable situation, that's when I can come in and say something safely.
And use your power to help them.
Yes. And power comes, with influence. It comes with, your career. It can also come based on your identity, unfortunately. Yeah. So spotting what type of power you have in that room to be able to say something, and how can we help change that culture? Because some people, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to say something. They just don't know how.
Yes.
So that's what we're trying to break down. When these things happen, what are some responses, or what do you think about when it comes to your power in that room, if you can safely say something, really working in that culture dynamic and trying to, disrupt that.
Yeah. That's so commendable. I mean, I love the culture shift, just notion. And I guess on that note, because I want to think about this more abstractly, but also if you could say, is this more B2B where you guys are going to, organizations, institutions, recording? Could somebody just come to you guys, like an artist, and voice, anything that's going wrong with them? I mean, maybe they had a bad incident and they need to seek legal advice, but they can't afford a lawyer, for instance. Is that something you could help with? Could you help this just person, or is it more just like B2B and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I'll jump in on that first. So, we do have we have a vision of what the bigger mission and the future of No Creeps can look like. And one of those things is actually developing a safety board that's comprised of music professionals from all different walks and sets of experiences that can come together. And, so if certain unsafe situations arise or happen, there's a place that people can actually submit some of those complaints to an industry-wide board. So, we kind of compare it to an industry HR, but obviously this isn't within a specific company, something that can really, bridge the gap for anyone, no matter if they're a freelancer or they're part of a major company. So we want to create that safety board that people could come forward and talk to us about it.
Have you heard of T? It's been in the news recently. It's an app that some women started for basically dating apps, where people have bad experiences on these dating apps, but then they can go to this app and they can talk about that experience they had with that individual, and it's become kind of like a database of individuals who have had egregious behaviors on dating apps. I thought that was sort of similar to what you're describing, but it's also gotten backlash too, of course. But I think resources like that are so important for keeping people accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been brainstorming a lot of ways of what accountability in the industry can look like. And there's a lot of accountability almost in every industry, I would say, right? Because Uber drivers get ratings, you've got Yelp reviews, you've got Rate My Professor, all these things where you can just look people up and get a sense of...
doctors, ZocDoc, all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. But there isn't so much of that in the industry. And obviously... we are not lawyers or anything like that, and if someone has a complaint, we, can only kind of direct people where to go with that complaint, but we do want to let people know that there are resources and support out there, but we are going B2B to institutions, organizations to say, okay, what kind of checks and balances already exist? How could those be strengthened so that people who are bad actors actually feel like there would be repercussions for their actions, and maybe they think twice about doing something that they wouldn't have thought twice about yesterday. So
absolutely.
And just to kind of add to what Gillian was saying a little bit, we definitely have ideas around that too, but we've seen the way that those apps like that work and the ways that they don't, right? Because unfortunately there is a cancel culture, and people can say a lot of different things, and it can really hurt people. So is there a way to be able to receive complaints, and then after a certain period of time it can be made public? So we're these are some of the conversations we're having and actively working on. I mean, we are still a very new movement, so these are all still in the works, but I mean, having conversations like this help, because you can see, okay, what has worked, what hasn't worked, how can we create a system that is really helping protect people and holding people accountable. And I think some kind of app in the future would be really amazing. We've also been considering how we could partner with the Recording Academy of, hey, what's their system accountability there? And then if we were a hub that could take certain complaints, we could then send it to legal. We could work with the Recording Academy. We're really starting to put together the foundation of what that can look like. Like Gillian said, we are not legal at this point, but we are looking into bringing legal on board. But we're very excited about what the future could look
how
like.
This is going to evolve. I mean, there's so much opportunity. I'm so excited for you guys, and commend you so hard. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Where can people follow you?
Well, you can follow No Creeps on Instagram at No Creeps MVMT, No Creeps Movements, and you can follow me at Gillian Jean GILLIANJEAN _ on Instagram.
And you can find me at Katie KATIE Sharp Edges. That's my Instagram handle. You can also follow my studio, Sharp Edges Records, just Sharp Edges Records on Instagram. You can find my company at sharpedgesrecords.com, also on TikTok. And then we actually do have a No Creeps landing page where we have a bunch of resources. We also have our digital zine from our last event there. We have specific resources for queer music industry professionals. We have just a lot of resources there. So the landing page is sharpedgesrecords.com/no creeps. So you can find a lot of our resources there as well.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank
you for having
you.
us.
Absolutely.